Welcome to the Q&A. It's that time on a Friday morning where for sort of 30 minutes we have a conversation around Systema, what it is, how we practice it, how we implement it, how we use it in everyday life, and answer any questions and just have a discussion on kind of the broad aspects of Systema, with the aim of improving everyone's knowledge and capability. This morning I was going to talk about something we touched on briefly last week, which is what the Japanese call Shinrin-yoku, which means forest bathing. But actually, Jaro's on today from the Netherlands, and I'm teaching a seminar in the Netherlands in, what's the date? Is it 21st of April?
12 and 13 May.
So that's it, so I was close.
13th, 14 May, or 13th, 14 May.
13th, 14th of May. So it's quite a way away yet, but the topic we're doing for it is quite an interesting one. It's from natural movement to natural defense. And it's quite a key concept in Systema, the idea of natural movement. It's the martial art is based on natural movement, but there's a lot assumed in being able to do natural movement. To allow natural movement to come out of your body, by its nature, it's not contrived. So you're not adhering to a particular form, preconceived ideas, a predetermined shape or form in your body or set of movements. It's something that's natural in the moment, that's just right for the job. So like, you look in nature, the way a river runs down through a hillside, or water trickles down from a tributary, and it just finds the natural path, the easiest path that's just right. It doesn't do any more, doesn't do any less, unless the volume of water increases, of course. So that idea of natural movement that we're going to explore on the seminar, I'll talk a little bit about it, and then we'll open it up to see other people's thoughts on it. But for me, and my understanding of this has changed. Initially I thought natural movement was just the absence of techniques, but of course it's much deeper than that, and this lies at the root of the health aspects of Systema too, because to respond naturally, well, even before you get to the self-defense aspect of responding naturally, just to move naturally, you need to be able to move without your emotions getting in the way. So, and predominantly the emotion of fear, anxiety, which tightens and contracts the body, tightens and restricts your breathing, which then has an adverse effect on your nervous system, makes your movements more jerky, more jumpy, less sophisticated, less controlled, and more from a place of lack rather than an open, feel-good way of moving. So if you can bring yourself to a natural state, you can allow natural movement to come out. And we've all experienced it, from just being able to walk naturally, or to run naturally, to move naturally, through to those times when you've been doing sport and you just find yourself in that flow moment where things happened and you almost look back and think someone else did that. Those are the sublime moments of it. And the aim is that you move more and more to being in that state where you get out of your own way, your own tension, your own preconceived ideas, the mental tensions of having to do well, of having to perform, the physical tensions, the tightness in your muscles, the quick to fatigue, to a very open, relaxed, natural, like almost enjoyable, blissful way of moving. And that's what Systema looks for, and that's what the four principles lead you towards: the breath work, the movement, the structure, the relaxation. They're all aimed at bringing yourself back to your straight, natural state that's not bent out of shape by desire, apprehension, physical tension. The removal of injuries over time from your body, ones that are legacy injuries. Obviously, we all pick up injuries from time to time, but the speed of healing that comes from not holding on to that injury, mentally, physically, emotionally, and letting your body's natural healing process and state and speed that are quite sometimes bewildering speed through which you can heal and completely heal from injuries. So, and then leading that into self-defense. But I'll pause it there a sec and just like kind of open this out. So, if we focus first on what natural movement feels like and how to get there before we go into the aspect of taking that into defense. So, yeah, any thoughts, guys?
What for me is a big trigger point when movement is natural. It also get light. So you get the lightness in movement, and then the movement is natural as well. It doesn't get heavy. So if I push up in a natural way, I can push up for, I want to say like forever, but there should be a limit somewhere. But it's so light, so easy. You feel your body healing while moving natural. And
Yeah, sorry, go on.
when something's stuck in your back and you start moving it slowly and natural, you slowly feel it ease up, get more relaxed, and get more light. So that's for me the biggest feeling when I move natural. It's also light.
Yeah, the longer I've done Systema, the more that's become like a revelation. Almost every class could be a class on lightness now. I remember Vladimir introducing the concept and doing some classes on lightness, and now, it's kind of it's a a natural state that you kind of it is an aim towards, almost in everything that we're doing. In fact, I'm going to put a video out a bit later about kind of lightness on the end of a stick, and then moving between lightness and heaviness. That idea to float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, kind of in defense, and some of that will be part of what we do in this course. But yeah, that idea that a lightness is a great indicator of health and the fact that you're moving naturally. Yeah, lovely.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Something that we were doing this week in class was ground to stand-in transitions, and where you lead from on that to achieve different feelings of lightness. And one of the things that Natalie found very entertaining was this, stand into completely supine position like this. She was just like, she'd not seen it before, and she was kind of she laughed the first time she saw it because it made her a little bit nervous. And I think some of the things that we do in that respect are very telling for people, because they taste their own tensions in a different way. You do some things that are slightly abstract, and it really gets people to think in a way that they don't usually associate certain words with things. So when you see someone drop into the floor like a brick and yet there's no noise, and it's you can see in how they did it, it was fluid. It wasn't like a heavy, destructive, fearful collapse, if you like.
Yeah.
To me, that's one of the things about it. But then also, like you say, moving from lightness to heaviness. So it's not just the lightness, though that is a fundamental and essential aspect of it. It's also the freedom with which you can choose to move between those things. And like you say, that's not even pertaining to the martial arts aspect. That's quite literally just that you have advocacy over how you move through life and how you interact with other people. Yeah, so that's something that really came through for us this week. It was very entertaining to play with and to see people's reactions too.
Yeah. Yeah, some of those movements, like where you just drop, or and you sit, or you just appear, like Vladimir says about Michael, that as big as he is, suddenly he just appears, and you look and he stood by your shoulder and you didn't notice it. That lightness, that naturalness of movement. And like an animal moves through a forest, they move to not be seen, because most of them are either don't want to be seen, or because they don't want to be eaten, or they want to eat, and so they learn that way of moving that doesn't attract attention, and that's nature, and that's natural, and And almost in some ways, I don't know if this is right, I'm just weighing up a thought here, that natural movement is it's human, but it's got more and more natural kingdom characteristics around it. If you think of humans as this big ball of thoughts and anxieties and stresses and preconceived ideas and preconditions and desires, that they all get in the way of natural movement. And there's a removal of that to go back to your nature. And we came from nature. We were those creatures too that walked around forests looking to either eat or not be eaten. So we had to move in that way. And of course we would have had fears and human emotions then, the same as an animal does, I guess, but less and less clouded by, just your mind's on loads of other things, or you want to look good kind of thing. It's more, the closer you maybe get to nature and survival, the more you would by necessity have to lose a lot of the jumble inside you that kind of gets in the way of being able to move naturally. The tensions that don't really matter. Well, they matter a lot, conceptually, but in the reality of the stark reality of things don't. So that, yeah, so like when what made me think of that was when you said that Natalie watched you do it and there was a slight nervous laugh. It's like you're watching something almost preternatural, or a bit scary, because that's how like something deadly can move. Something that can bite you hard can move. And you watch Vladimir move sometimes that way, or Michael, or or just like a movement like that can just from nothing, without any preparation movements, go down, make a big movement that there's something different about that movement. So yeah.
And for me, like, it's the practicing of those more abstract skills that helps people shed those layers of concern and ego based, you know, oh, I can't do shaking as therapy because it looks silly and I will feel uncomfortable. And then when you practice these other movements, you're like, oh, shaking feels great. Why was I not doing this sooner? And of course, like you say, in the animal kingdom, I mean, you see it all the time. That's exactly how any moving creature discharges tension, and it's a very natural function, So, yeah, it's a real joy to play with. I think, particularly in those early stages when people first come to Systema, because if you can do it in a playful way, people can access it much quicker. You can really take, like you say, the danger aspect out of it, of like, because it's like a tarantula dropping from a tree or something. It is that very kind of evocative, subliminal
Yeah.
sensation of like, I wasn't ready for that, and I'm not sure how to deal with any of this now.
Yeah, yeah. Or like when you see like a dog or a cat or or a tiger, lion, whatever, just pause and go from walking to prone, and they're ready to pounce, attack, whatever. And they too have got that real lightness that you kind of, there's no preparation movement, and the heaviness of the strike or the bite or whatever, it's yeah, there's a real potency in it, in that capability, I think.
I once saw a cat who was sleeping in the sun on the floor, and for some reason it scared for something, and from a sleeping position it jumped up like 2 meters on a roof or something. Like, think, what was that? Oh, it was nothing, and it just went back on the roof to sleep further.
Yeah. Yeah, that ability to go from ready to relaxed, ready,
Yeah,
relaxed.
but there was no transition like when I have to jump real high. I want to tense
Yeah.
my muscles and boom, but it was like sleep, boom, and it was gone. Wow, there
Yeah.
was so much lightness in there and so much power as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, typically these seminars follow the format of, firstly, establishing what it feels like to have to be in a natural state, calm, relaxed, at ease, the state you should be spending most of your time in, and then being able to carry that through, some gentle movement to more strenuous movement, to lose that state and then come back to it. Firstly, taking a bit of time, and then more and more with a awareness. I'm out of it now. I'm back in it. Just you're you can transition between those states with a thought, and you don't have to go through a series of practices. The practices are always good to deepen the state and to strengthen your ability to move from one to another. But of course, the practices are no good in a high stress situation, and that's what we've got to practice for when we're doing the combat side. So, so the ability to do it on an awareness or on a feeling level, or a more and more intuitive, that you don't even actually then give yourself the thought command. Your awareness realizes you're out and takes you back in, drops you back into it. So yeah, and so like we'll build up the practices from static to moving to strenuous to working with a partner, firstly lightly, and then with more and more stress through the whole range of circumstances. And it's that idea in Systema that I love, that you take a concept and you kind of hopefully deliver it in a way that people get it and can catch it, and then you deepen and strengthen their ability to understand that concept through such a range of situations, scenarios, drills, that it becomes theirs. And there's so much in just that phrase, and it's Vladimir's, not mine. You make a concept yours through that, almost as many different angles and ways as you can look at that feeling, that skill that you've got, or that principle, and then through doing that, you can only make it yours, really. And as a teacher, you give people the opportunity to make it theirs, and that system, the way this system is designed and delivered to be able to make these life-changing concepts yours, through fun drills, that are safe but challenging, and then build up to those most challenging moments, or as challenging as you can get in a training environment. Yeah, and it's lovely to kind of put these ideas together and then see them, know how they came into being in you, and how they change and evolve and develop, and see that process in others. So that's kind of the idea of this seminar. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know which martial art teacher said it, but he said something like, "If you're all doing it like me, you're doing it wrong." And that reminds me of if I've moved naturally, I'm not built like Vladimir, so it looks different, but still natural. But the moment I start trying to move like Vladimir, it's not natural for me anymore. I get this sort of tensions, and it still works, but for me, I lose something of the lightness because I'm just built different than Vladimir.
Yeah. And that's a hard thing to get at first, because you want to move like Vladimir. Like, I'd love to do what he can do, and but after a while you start to realize that that's not you, and that's probably not maybe possible, or because it may be from size difference, shape difference, injuries that you may have, different capabilities, and so. But then, the more and more you realize how good it feels to move like you were made to move. And just how nice a feeling that is, and how connected that feels, and how natural it feels. Being natural is good, isn't it? So
one of the things I say a lot when training with my own students, don't look at what I'm doing, but how I'm doing, because that's completely different. What I'm doing is just a form, but how I'm doing it, how am I breathing, how am I moving, that's way more. They can learn way more from looking how it's done than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
In the end, otherwise they just be copies like me, and a copy is always a poor result. It's never
Well,
the
and
real thing.
one of you is bad enough, Jaro.
Sorry?
One of you is bad enough.
Yeah. I don't want to mix up more Jaros in the world. That would be terrible. I already have 2 mini-me's, so that's enough, I think.
That's enough. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So so the for those of you that have maybe come a bit later, so the seminar's on when was it, in May? The 14th?
I will type it. It was 13th and 14th of May. So the
13th,
Saturday and
14th
the
of
Sunday.
May in the Netherlands. It's always lovely to have 2 days to explore a concept and to get it deeply. It's if any of you've been on Vladimir or any of the Systema teachers, you know, that way that they take a concept and extrapolate it out, you know, take it apart, put it back together, and lead that through a journey through the weekend is amazing. And I'll hope to try and do the same thing with this idea, this concept. And whether you're in Systema for improving your health, physical, mental, emotional, or you know, or your combat skill capability, then you know, hopefully you'll get a bit from it, and be able to take this concept into other things too.
And also a big note for people coming abroad. It's in a small village in the Netherlands. It's easy to reach, but most websites don't have any English forms. Contact us and we help you set up your accommodation.
Awesome. Awesome, great. So any final points from anyone else? Roshin, Marcus?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I think before I've heard you use the word balance, and then today I'm almost, just by feeling into what you guys are saying and how you guys feel as you're dropping into connecting to that bit that you guys go to and come in and out of, it sounds like what you're saying is innate, like it's born within us, like almost like a predatory, but you know, like an animal that can be predatory but can also be like parental. So would you say that like what you're describing is like primal and innate?
Yeah, I think by its nature, you know, and your natural state is born into. Obviously, there's so much that can influence it, you know, your experiences. But what you're trying to do is strip away all the layers of how your experiences have influenced you, triggered you, you know, or cause tension. It's really tension we're talking about, I guess, and you know, your thoughts can cause that, previous experiences, preconceptions, desires, you know, and most tensions are born of thoughts, and you know, if you track that back, so you know, most people, in my experience, aren't aware of their tensions, even big tensions, until they start something like Systema, or unless they get very ill, and even then maybe they aren't able to track back to why they're ill, to where tensions are, and then kind of you track back through your physical tension to kind of what put it there, and usually that's emotion, maybe fear, anger, jealousy, rage, you know, feeling sorry for yourself, you know, the kind of emotions, and usually heavy emotions that put it there. And then those emotions come from your thoughts, by nature, you know, the way, and then your thoughts generally come from the way you see the world, you know, your worldview, your spiritual view, whatever that might be. So it's often interesting to track it back, and kind of you're born without most of that, really. So, you know, you're trying to return to that childlike natural state where you can walk unburdened through the world, you know, Vlad says, without fear. That's just a lovely image, I think.
Interesting that you say that. The only thing that I can kind of relate it to is going on the range, doing range time, and get given like a rifle that's not been zeroed properly, and then the frustration of that, and then when you finally get it and you've got no tension, you've got no anger, you're not projecting anything down the scope, and just to be able to breathe and soften off and like take that shot. And it's strange, I'm actually sat outside the gym in a pool, and I've had a quite a considerable drop in health and mobility. So to get changed, to get here, to get in and out the car and all that sort of stuff, triggered by some family stuff that's happened recently. So it's a great meditation for today. In fact, what you've said, to sort of observe and make that change, and sometimes that change is quite instant, to get out of that cognitive headspace. But for me now, when I get in the water, it will be like very innate to float in the water, but you know, the journey in and out of the pool might be painful, but it's mind-led. So yeah, it's interesting because I first kind of had this view of it being very external. And then when I've been to a couple of seminars, I realized it wasn't. And the more I'm hearing or feeling into what you guys are saying, it seems like ultimately martial, but at the same time, it seems more like a way of life, more like the way of the warrior, as opposed to kind of like learning, as you said, forms, or having this kind of mega kind of unrealistic martial art that people learn that doesn't have like an application. It doesn't allow for things to go wrong. It just seems more that you're developing your own spirits. You have the ability to bring a presence that can be destructive or opposite, like nurturing in a health way, like a balance. Anyway, thank you. Sorry, I'm talking too much.
No worries. No, very good. Yeah, I think that idea of a natural warrior, you know, rather than fighting for money or for pride or fame or that kind of thing, it's you know, which can cloud things. You're fighting for your family or your, you know, your own survival or your community, and it's that idea runs through Systema. You know, Vladimir, Valerie, Michael outlined that in the books, that it's that kind of warrior, and that kind of warrior needs to be healthy for their whole life. You know, because you know when you're in nature in a community, you never know when the threat's going to come. So it's not as if you send other people off to do that work. So yeah, great. Well, thanks, guys. Great to see you guys, and yeah, and an impromptu chat is always good, and yeah, hopefully we did the theme for the seminar justice. If you put your contact details in the chat, Jarrow, if people want to get in touch, you can always get in touch with me, of course, and I can point you towards Jarrow. But Jarrow put his, great. So info@breathandbody.nl, breath and the word and body.nl for Netherlands. So great. I hope you enjoyed it today. Great to speak to you guys, and have a great weekend, everyone, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
Cheers, and you. Cheers, Marcus. Cheers, Jarrow.